That's a minute. We can just go ahead and get started. I don't want to wait too long. Um, let's go ahead and we've got quorum, so we'll call this meeting to order. This is our December meeting of the Board of Directors for 2024, our last meeting for 2024 calendar year. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who's watching. We have a consent agenda in the box that was provided along with the meeting notice. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at that? I would entertain either corrections and or approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Jim.
Do I have a second? Thanks, Jim.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Heather. So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Rebecca?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
James? Jim?
Aye. Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Melanie?
Aye.
And I makes it unanimous. Thank you very much. We have one item on the right. We just have one item on the voting items.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it from here, Nate?
Sure. So we met as an A&D committee earlier this month. Zach has been, excuse me, doing a bunch of work kind of evaluating our impact, basically what's happening with the properties that we sell. And you can see there's a memo in the box that kind of summarizes what he's found. This is something that John's been guiding Zach on. One more. Sorry. So anyways, we talked a lot about it at the A&D committee. We can share again, kind of summarize things. I'd asked John, Zach, Brad, Rebecca to offer feedback, but the recommendation is that we suspend the vacant lot auction until we can make proper adjustments. Because the suggestion is that we make some adjustments to that, the way we do our vacant lot auction.
And could you, just in a nutshell, Nate, kind of summarize what leads to that conclusion? That what it sounds like is much like when I served on the planning commission and you vote for zoning changes, you had to be careful that you weren't voting in changes that were speculative, that you'd change it from R to maybe a variety business, and then they had no intent to build, they just want to resell it and make a profit. So with that in light, are we seeing the same thing with the auction, the way people are buying these properties? Is that the problem?
John, would you be willing to?
Yeah, maybe Zach can correct me if I'm misinterpreting his research. But I think that what we've discovered is the best practice for land banks around Indiana and around the country is to sell properties with deed restrictions. And currently we're selling vacant lots at such a low price that we can't afford to put deed restrictions on them. And so what we would like to do is consider raising the price on the vacant lots so that we can add a deed restriction. The other, sort of more practical reason for this pause of the vacant property auction is that I think we're down to one or two properties. So we don't have any uncommitted properties to auction. And also we'd like to look at our policies and procedures and potentially do whatever we can to ensure that the properties are used as promised by our clients.
So thank you, John. That several questions, and somebody has to do follow-up to make sure they are. That's the challenge we have with the planning commission is somebody's got to be out there being the monitor to make sure they are doing that. What is the level of dollar value that you have to raise it to? You said a minimum to be able to put deed restrictions. Is it based upon the value of the property or just a dollar value?
It's a legal fee that's standard. It would be an additional administrative legal cost. And that's what's tricky about it, is that a lot of these properties, whenever we auction the property, the market sort of sets the price at a lower value than what it would cost to put a deed restriction on it. And we're already, in many cases, losing money on the properties, because we do all the title work, and also the acquisition cost. And so we want to see if, potentially we can, raise the price and get the deed restriction on there. And with regard to, part of this comes out of Zach doing like data analysis, like looking at what's happened with the properties. But part of it comes out of, now that we have the ability to, hire and assign interns tasks, they actually went out and did a, comprehensive review of the properties that we sold. And the findings are pretty nuanced. There are people who complete the projects that they, say that they're going to complete through the A&D process. And those properties, look pretty good, and they're, we're making some progress there. But then there are people who, who don't. And that's the population that we want to focus on.
So it's really cost recovery, number one. Whatever we invest, we'd like to recover that. If legal fees are implied, we need to raise the ante a little bit. Second, how does this impact our request going forward, asking for properties from various, the county and so on and so forth? I assume this is going to be vetted and move forward rather quickly then, correct? Is that the intent?
The pausing of the motion is to pause the auction, and so as soon as we vote to do that, then the auction will be paused. And one of the things that we're kind of contemplating in the A&D committee is whether we continue to acquire properties that are not already requested by particular partners, whether we continue to take properties that are, just for the auction. So one of the things that Zach did this year is create a map and a form. And the map shows all the properties that are available on the tax lien sale, or the tax lien sale. And then partners like, Habitat, Pathstone, Urban Light, they could fill out a form and say, we want you to go to the county and ask for these specific properties. So one of the questions that we have is that going to be our primary or our exclusive way of requesting properties, or are we just going to take properties that we think might, go well into the auction, raise the price that we're selling those properties for, and continue the auction? Because frankly, it's kind of a good thing. We're really excited about the success that we're having with the Intend partnership. We just did our first open house yesterday with Pathstone, with a house that's been rehabilitated. And frankly, that's, the partners seem to be able to deliver, redevelopment projects more effectively than people who are coming into the auction and buying properties.
And just so this analysis that Zach and Hannah and Ruby have assisted with is basically looking at the properties that we've sold that have come in from the MRC, that were held by some nonprofits, and that they were just in their inventory. And when the land bank started to function, they said, here, you take them. So they were just kind of like random properties dispersed throughout the city that had been sitting there for a long time, all of them vacant lots. And, our goal, our stated goal public was that we were going to show that we could move properties, and we did that. The properties that we got from MRC, I think there were like around 35, 36. Those had sat in their inventory for, on average, more than 4 years. I think it was 4 years and 3 months. And on average, it took us 13 months to transfer those properties to somebody locally. So I think this kind of evaluation and recommendation for changes is dealing with those kinds of properties that have they're not part of a strategic plan. They're not connected to any partnership. Just to say that the properties that we acquired in April from the county, 36, with those 36 properties that are now deeds, 31 of them are tied to partnerships. 31 of them have funding connected to them and plans for affordable housing and market rate housing to be built on them. So I think we're talking about vacant lot auction properties that really are just kind of out there. And I think one question is that something that we want to continue to offer? Because it's not a very glamorous process. I mean, it's just you're taking liabilities or properties with not a lot of value and trying to find somebody locally that really just wants basically to take care of a lot. And so I think that's what and I think what Zach and everybody found was that basically people that are following through on their stated intended use, the numbers look reasonable. It's all the folks that aren't following through, those numbers don't look as great. And so we want to talk about, can we improve if this kind of inventory and this kind of process is something we want to continue with.
Yeah. Because typically for a land bank, when you would receive properties like what the MRC gave us, the goal would just be to bank them, to hold on to them, to mow them, to take care of them. But we made a commitment to move those properties as quickly as possible. And we used the auction and there's a lot of success there in terms of how quickly we were able to turn them over. And there's also success in that none of them have gone back to the tax lien sale. I mean, there's real, accomplishments that Zach has noted and that we have found. But we think it could be better. We think it, either we bank it for longer until someone's willing to pay $1,000 or $1,500 for the lot, and have a deed restriction on it. Or, we try to package it with other development projects.
Well, that's what'll be determined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still yet to be determined. So the request is recommendation is to pause this auction. The A&D committee had a very lengthy discussion, which John and Nate has done a really great job of summarizing up. And Heather might remember a conversation that Jose and I had about side lots. And I think that we're like what Zach has nailed down is that, taking a bunch of narrow urban lots and turning them to wide suburban lots in the same area isn't very profitable. So we want to take the time that the A&D committee would use to go over auction bids and go over these policies and procedures and methods and see what we can flex out. And we're hoping by, I believe it was a March date, to have something in place for the board to really chew over.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Zach wrote a really great piece called Memo on the MLB Disposition. It's in today's box inputs. It's about 6 pages. So if you get a chance, you can go through some of the data that Zach put together there.
I would make a motion to pause the online auction. Do you need me to say indefinitely? Or can we just make a motion to pause the online auction?
Yeah, just go ahead and say indefinitely, please.
Indefinitely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's a motion and a second to pause our online auction indefinitely. Are there any other questions or comments concerning it? All right, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Rebecca,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
and myself makes it unanimous. So we'll pause this, like we talked about, and the India community will still meet and still continue to do the work on policy to correct it, to try to guide ourselves towards higher use and what that might look like. I'm not on my agenda. Sorry. Okay, next. That was the only, I think, voting item under 4 that we really had. Everything else is that coming up next is items of general discussion or committee updates, where we start with our acquisition disposition committee. Nate's going to update us on all the tax certificate deeds and a house down in Thomas Park, Avondale.
Yeah, as I mentioned, so all the deeds had been petitioned from the court. They're awarded. So again, to remind you that we originally were awarded 40. 2 of those were actually deeds, so those are in our inventory, part of the Old West End stuff. And then we have 2 properties that were redeemed. So that we're down to 36 tax certificates, but have now been converted to deeds. I went to the auditor's office yesterday, signed all the purchase agreements, dropped off checks to pay for the recording and transfer fees. The only thing that we have left to do is that she told me that we're responsible for paying for the fall taxes on those properties. So they were going to tally that up, send me the total. I'll drop off a check and then we're done. Waiting to get those in the mail. Actually, Leslie Mathewson, our lawyer, just emailed me and said, "Hey, Nate, let's get this done. Get in there and sign them because I want to get this done before the year's end." And so then we can start quiet title action. And then that really ties up our role and the whole legal side of getting those properties. And like I said, again, the lion's share of those are already tied up to partnership and projects. And so it's great to have, before we even got the property, already have funding and plans for these properties, most of them. 612 West 5th, we had a great kind of ceremony to celebrate that process. This is a property that we acquired back in 2022 from the deed sale, and then we cleaned up, and then passed it off to Pathstone earlier this year, and they rehabbed it with funds from community development in the city, and so it's a nice little look in Thomas Park, Avondale neighborhood. And they're selling it now for $79,900. And I shared a little bit yesterday, but the history of the house. So that was a property that back in 2008, the assessed value was over $37,000. For whatever reason, it ended up going to the tax sale in 2011, didn't sell in 2012. It was acquired by a local LLC. It's actually an LLC that at the last tax sale just acquired 50 some properties. 25% of the properties that were sold at the tax sale, this same LLC had acquired this property back in 2012. And then from 2012 to 2021, not much happened. The assessed value dropped by about 20%. And then it went back to the tax sale in 2021, didn't sell. And then the county turned it into a deed. And then that's when we purchased it from there for $4,100. And then we put another about $4,000 into it to clean it up, did a renovation spec. And then that's when we formed this agreement with Pathstone that we would hold it until they secured financing. When we first got that property, it was a property that was on the demo list. We talked to the building commissioner and he said, "Hey, if you guys got a plan, I'll take it off." But it was a property that we had seen going into tax sale. I remember going out there and looking at it with Brad. that seemed to have like structural integrity, and we thought let's go for this. So, anyways, long story short, it's our first full rehab, and hopefully sells close to the sale price is $79,900, and hopefully we're talking six, depending on the assessed value, $600 to $800 of property taxes per year, and an affordable house for somebody here in Muncie. And the product was really great. The house looked fantastic. So yeah, we can't thank Annette enough for all her work, and she really guided us in that process, and we learned a lot about what our responsibility is through that. And Rebecca played an important role for consulting and helping kind of hold our hand along the way as well.
There was a real good show out of board members there yesterday, and it's going to be just a tie in to what we just did. This is going to be like in a year and 2 years, it's projects like this and the properties we got from the county that are going to change the way a study like Zach's turns out, right? When we use AVs. So this is just the beginning, and this has kind of always been the goal, is to aim at housing. Spring Ask.
I've talked a fair bit about this. This is kind of, if you read in the agenda, that's kind of a little bit kind of like the logic behind how we're approaching the Spring Ask. In the past, I talk about it in kind of like three phases. When, back in 2020, 21, 22, beginning of 22, we were really just kind of running this vacant lot auction. We were getting properties kind of just kind of from different places, and we had this auction. And then in 2022, we started thinking a little bit more strategically. Let's try to grab properties connected to our partners. And then I feel like where we're at right now is that we still do offer that service of if a partner says, I really want this property, we'll try to acquire it for them. But what we're trying to do is, what the Together DM talks about, and block by block development and forming coalitions with all the different actors in the neighborhood, and using data collection to inform where we invest resources. And so that's what we're doing right now, and we're doing that intentionally in primarily the Old West End, Whiteley, and industry. And so we have a meeting. Hannah and I are going to meet with some folks from Whiteley hopefully next week, and push that conversation along, kind of create a timeline for working with the Whiteley community. But part of that is having them help us decide on where we want to focus resources and where we want to start acquiring property, which will be part of our Spring Ask to the commissioners.
Any questions about properties?
Can I just ask real quick? Are you all coordinating with the planning analysis studio to continue looking at property conditions, or is that
I need
done?
to talk to Sang Lim. We haven't formalized an agreement, but that's possible, to use the second year studio to continue assessing conditions in different neighborhoods.
I'm meeting with her this afternoon, so if that's something you want me to bring up, I can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe can you stay on 2 minutes after the meeting, John? Yeah.
All right. Next is our programs committee update. Our first Friday for December. Nate and I's Plan 302 students gave their final presentation. I think some of you were there for the presentation. Does I guess Ruby's not here. Zach, anything you want to say about the presentation from First Friday? Look at you.
I think it went really well. I think it was a good culmination of all the work that was done in studio. And I appreciate everyone who showed up to give really good insight and feedback to the students in the studio.
I tell you, you guys did a wonderful job. The data was enlightening. It was thorough. You guys did a lot of good research. So kudos to you, your classmates, and your instructors. They were excellent.
Thanks, Jim. That plan is the final plan that was submitted is inbox if you want to look at that. It's also on our website or the PowerPoint presentation. We'll upload this to our website. And again, and this kind of rolls into the next point that I've asked John and Brad to talk about. But thinking about, I added this to our programs because I'm thinking kind of a new program is really trying to formalize our partnership with the urban planning department. Is something that John's spearheaded, but also trying to give more structure to how we use the second and third year studio classes, potentially a 2 or 3 year cycle of planning studios to assist in this kind of bottom up block by block development that we're trying to facilitate in neighborhoods. I was going somewhere with that and I forgot, but yeah, that's.
I can pick it up.
Go ahead, John.
One of the goals that I have as chair of the department is to have our studios, the work that happens in our studios with clients, to make it more enduring and substantial, so that we're not just coming into communities offering an idea and then moving on. And so we've run the neighborhood studio twice in the same neighborhood in partnership with the land bank, and the goal is to get a project started and to do research, get a project started, and see the beginning of implementation before we move on to the next neighborhood. And what I'm finding is that there's a lot of appetite for this around the state. We have clients who are working with the urban planning department who are willing to pay significant fees for these services. And because we're located in Muncie and because we value the Muncie community, we want to continue offering that service here. It also makes sense logistically for students. So I look forward to working more with Nate and Brad to think about what services or what the focus of the neighborhood studio is over a course of maybe 2 to 3 years in each neighborhood. And we'll, I guess, report back to the board when we know more.
And just one of the things that connects with that, both programs, First Friday and the partnership, is we've talked a little bit, but this came from John thinking about if we could invite speakers to our First Friday meeting that could also be speak to urban planning students, and thinking about how we could fund that, because we'd love to start bringing in people from around the state. We've been drawing on mostly local folks, which has been great, but I think there's a real opportunity to expand our reach and bring in people from all over the state that are involved in really innovative planning, public-private partnerships, development work.
So just to give an example, in the spring, we're bringing in the lead planner for the city of South Bend, the one who has developed that infill housing strategy with the pre-planned building structures. He's going to come and talk to planning students, stay the day, and then the next day go to the land bank and talk to them. And we're also bringing in the person who has spearheaded the neighborhood planning structure in Fort Wayne. So in Fort Wayne, they've hired through their planning department, through their municipal planning department, they've hired 7 neighborhood planners. They're really making a push now that their downtown is stronger. They're making a push to work more effectively in the surrounding neighborhoods. The the people who spearheaded that and some of the people who are working those jobs are urban planning alumni, and they're excited to come and talk about their efforts at neighborhood planning. It'll be the same deal where they'll come talk to planning students on Thursday and then go to First Friday, the next day.
Any other questions for this partnership and for First Fridays? We are going to have one in January due to the holiday. So we'll have one coming up in February, right?
No First Friday in January.
Yep. All right. Now hearing what's going on to fundraising, looks like we are putting in our letter of interest for $25,000 to Community Foundation for the first quarter. When's that due again? Right at the first of the year, right?
Yeah, we got to submit a full proposal by January 6th.
Any concerns about that? No? Anyone have any questions for Nate for it? Hannah reached out to the, was it the Subaru Foundation about our rejected proposal? And what did you hear, Hannah?
I heard that it needs to be a more like targeted grant for a specific property, and they want to be the sole contributor to whatever they're investing in. So like because they say they only have like 15,000 to contribute to a project, so they want to completely fund whatever it is, so they can say that they helped that organization with so and so. I learned that, and that for acquiring property with the grant, they want it to be used by as many people as possible. So community spaces, parks, that will be more eye-catching for them.
And I just say that we applied for this. We had asked for funding for property in Whiteley, and I thought, man, this is a great proposal, and it would have been great to have some funding that we could say this is allocated, designated for getting our Whiteley partnership off the ground, but was rejected. And Jim, you had said we need to reach out and ask them for feedback. I got an email and I was kind of complacent with that, but Hannah called them just kind of on her own initiative, and we got this guidance. And then also it was kind of like, building that relationship and then them saying you should apply again. So that door is still open, and really appreciative that Hannah did that. So we're gonna resubmit something kind of using their suggestions as kind of guidance.
Good idea. Great. Looks like our rapid grant to bolster up First Fridays was not awarded by Ball Brothers Foundation. But our staff has been in contact with Intend over Ready, and even though that's a slow process, it doesn't indicate to be a no process. Correct?
No, yeah. As far as I understand, it's not an indication that funding's not coming in, that we haven't heard the announcement made. Jeff mentioned that yesterday, Jeff Howe at the MRC meeting. They had hoped to make the announcement, but still waiting on a few things. And it still sounds like the money's coming. Exactly how much it's tied to our project in the Old West End, I'm not sure. And but I think it's a significant amount. And the sentiment is that it's coming. Just the timeline might be delayed.
I think part of it is them figuring out the Lilly connection or something, is what if I remember right. We still waiting. We were hoping to get our first payment out of the pilot contract with MRC this year, but we have no indication yet from the city.
Just one clarification there, Brett. Sorry, we got our first payment from the MRC, and I think that's pretty straightforward. I'll just send an invoice each quarter. They're going to pay us.
I misunderstood. My bad.
But there's the 30,000 that was part of that agreement that was committed from the mayor, the pilot funds. It hasn't been awarded. It may be that it wasn't specified in the agreement whether it was tied to the 2024. The first payment would be 2024 fiscal year, 2025. I have been able to confirm that, but that's $30,000 on the table. That's either be nice to get it this year, but if not, I'm assuming it'll come in next year. It would be great if we could get some confirmation, and I'll keep working on that.
All right. Thanks for the update. Any questions about fundraising? Not hearing any. Public outreach. We'll be doing a presentation on this Old West End project at the IDEA conference.
It hasn't been confirmed, but I'm assuming that that'll happen. We had put in a proposal.
So hopefully we'll be able to, give a good presentation to audience about this project. Hopefully we'll even by March, we'll have a lot more information about that ready funding too. So
we'll let you know. The committee's meeting early January, so we'll have the responses out mid-January as to who's been selected. But we did ask the land bank to submit a proposal because past attendees were interested in hearing from the land bank. So that tells me a pretty good chance that this submission will be accepted, but confirmation will come mid-January.
Shouldn't have. That's still to be confirmed, but
fantastic. Any questions about public outreach? I'm going to move on to governance. Nate, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So, we met as a government relations committee, governance and government relations committee, and talked about pathways forward to push along the conversation with the county about an interlocal agreement. There's also some things that we need to address with the city. There are some things that I need to do communicating with people. But right now I'm working on a memo that explains, and I think we have started to really hone in. For me, it started to kind of crystallize, become clear, like what is it we're asking for and why, and what is the data that supports that. And so we're creating a memo that explains that and supporting that with data, and then we'll have some case studies, that mainly the one that Ruby did for us on EXH that supports that. And I'll just, Brad, if it's all right, I'll just kind of roll into the next.
Yeah, please.
It connects. Zach did he's done a great job of providing all these resources, pre-tax sale, post-tax sale, analysis of this tax sale historically. So I'm going to tie it back to that point about pathways forward with the county and the city. So at the tax sale, there were 92 properties that were sold, that were offered at the that were within Muncie city limits. 198 of those sold. 293 did not sell. Of those 198, approximately 143 were structures, 55 vacant land. If you look in the box, Partner Resources is the report that Zach made. It's a PDF, I think. But that represents those properties that were sold. That represents $600,000 of tax delinquency. And then over above that, bidding up properties, there was $3.2 million that the county accrued. Not necessarily all surplus, but they've accrued that. You can see that the largest purchasers there, and it goes into more detail in the report. And so kind of one of the things that I'm starting to kind of understand maybe is that, the tax sale for properties that it's their first time going to the tax sale. The tax sale might be an effective tool. I mean, a lot of it depends on what's happening with these properties going forward. And we have the historical data. So, we can go back from 2010 and do a deeper dive into that. Zach's done some of that already. But it may be that for properties that go through the tax sale one time, it's the first time that the tax sale is an effective tool. However, you can see that 293 properties, so more than 50%, did not sell. And, the county is going to have a deed sale in the spring or in the summer, which is new. I didn't know that. And so kind of, for me, the narrative is that, the original owner didn't want the property or couldn't handle the property. If properties go to the tax sale, 50%, more than 50% are rejected by the tax sale process. Nobody wants them. Then they go to the deed sale at a discounted price. Properties that don't sell there, they've been really kind of rejected by the market 3 times. And so then they go back to the tax sale and they churn or go to more deed sales. And so if those properties sell, the tendency is for it to be something, this is a strong word, but it's something exploitive, where you either have somebody coming in and trying to grab a swath of properties and they're just kind of speculating, or it's exploitive of people that are buying them, people that are thinking they're getting a great deal. This is going to be how they're going to, start to have some passive income, and then it just becomes a disaster. And so that's exactly what happened with EXH. Properties, they went to the tax sale numerous times, then they converted them to deeds. They didn't sell at the deed sale, and then this guy walks into the county office and says, I'll buy these for, all these properties for $20,000 or whatever it was. And I think, what's that, Brett?
A song and a dance.
Yeah. And I think we have a really great case to say, once these properties have gone through this process and have been rejected by the market over and over, rather than creative, an exploitive type next step in the process for these properties, because they're liabilities. The reason why they're rejected by the market is because there's no real value. And so the only way you're going to be able to turn those back into productive assets is by collaboration, by bringing in different partners, by public and private, partnerships. There's got to be some additional kind of collaboration around for these properties to become productive again. So I really feel like what we can offer is to be an off-ramp for some of those properties. I don't know if we could handle, obviously we probably couldn't handle 293 properties, but we can handle a portion, especially the ones that are tied to where we have partnerships. So that report's in box. We're going to be working with Zach to make that all public on our website. But yeah, Zach's done a great job of keeping us kind of up to date on all this information coming in, because there's been a lot, and then turning that into something that can be understood through graphs and charts and all those kinds of things. So maps. Any questions or comments?
Map and everything looks really cool. Good job.
It does. Thank you, Zach.
I think the next step is to turn it into an interpretive dance that Zach will perform for the county commissioners.
Well, I think we do have, though, a real opportunity to strike with this data, because we have a new county commissioner coming on. So it's not just about like presenting to some of the folks we have. It's also a chance to kind of shed a new way to like onboard someone to the process of land banking these tax sale properties, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. Does that make sense? So like if something like this could be compounded down into a presentation, like a PowerPoint or something.
I have an idea. the Association of Indiana Counties might benefit from some of Zach's analysis. They are basic. When you said onboarding of new county commissioners, that's basically their function. They inform county commissioners of best practices and do policy research on the work that county commissioners do. And so when a county commissioner is hired, elected, they go to AIC meetings and they learn about the functions of their job. Then they go to annual meetings, and the AIC also does some lobbying in the state house. And I think it would be really interesting not only to think about this as for a local audience, but also to think about it for the people who are training our county commissioners, or educating our county commissioners. Zach, how hard would it be to pull similar information for counties? Maybe if we did a sample of like 5 counties in Indiana.
Not hard. I mean, everything's on Indiana Gateway, so it shouldn't be too bad. Their tax sale information might be a little tricky. It's just how their auditor, how responsive their auditor might be.
Yeah, that could be very interesting, because I think that if we could have an ally in the Association of Indiana Counties, or at least a more a partner that's informed with the same information, that would be very beneficial.
I think that all this is a great idea. I feel like we've been churning out, information, stories, deliverable, and I feel like we really need to hone in and like see those through. I mean, like when I think about, all the things that we're trying to do here locally, like basically just saying, Zach, let's get to work on cleaning up everything you've done, handle all the things that you've done that need digging into, and then maybe take on a new, because we always have, we always have great ideas, and I'm just feeling like I want to really not let any of all the information that you guys have already created slip through the cracks, starting new projects. So put it on the map. Not to be a good
I really like that. I might say just to really think about those as 2 goals for this year,
Mhm.
to present to our local county commissioners and then to present to the state, and just like put that down and work towards it.
Yeah.
Because this data is amazing and it would be good to share.
Yeah.
And as you heard yesterday, Nate, it's probably good for MRC.
Hell yeah.
They expressed the interest. They were quite interested in the data that you guys accumulated.
Yeah.
Great ideas. Are there any other questions or concerns about the map? What to do with it? The data committee update? Hearing none, let's go to our executive committee update. We have to decide on our leasing option for our office. Somehow between us and the leaseor, our lease ended actually in February. So we have an option to enter into either a 1 up to 5 year at a lower rate than what we are at now. So we have to decide how long we want to potentially stay in this location.
Nate, are you happy where you're at?
Yeah, I think Mad Jack's been a great space. I mean, the office is, basic, but the facility, we've used that for First Friday meetings, for classes.
Mhm.
And I, thinking about trying to economize things, I'd be happy to. So if we would go for the 5-year lease, adding in what we've paid over that amount for the last however many months, 10 months, that would bring our lease down to $350 a month. We're currently paying $480. I don't know if anybody who has involved in these kinds of conversations, like, is it smarter to do a 3 year? Is 5 year too much? But
I think it's about
What's the
space.
penalty
Oh, go
if
ahead.
you
Jim.
break?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what's the penalty if you break it? Is there a certain number of months you got to pay in advance or pay because of your penalty?
that is probably in the old contract. I haven't been presented a new contract, and they've had a new transition change in management. So I don't know. I can ask that question if that's something that we would need to know before we can make a decision.
Just curious. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say it's kind of also our idea of how much we think we might grow within the period of the lease. There are, I believe, 2 other workstations that are in the office that the interns use. Am I right?
Yeah.
One of them was Joe's kind of desk when Joe worked for us, and then it's kind of become the intern station. And then there's another table that I believe is used as well. So it's with our interns, I think we're at kind of max space usage for that office when there's probably 2 of them in there with you, right?
Yeah, we have worked 3 additional people, but it's a little tight. Yeah.
And part of like tying in the CAP partnership with MLB has been this, what I consider to be a successful internship program with our agency from CAP and continuing that. And I just want everyone to consider that when we think about 1 to 5 years. It looks like either way we pay this, we're going to have a lowered lease, which is great.
Is there
John
any,
said something, I'm sorry,
yeah, is there any chance we could, when do we need to sign the lease?
as soon as possible
Okay.
because we end up in February.
All right. The there's some stuff going on, and I can't be more specific. That where we might be able to find a different opportunity. I'm hoping that I'll learn more in the coming maybe 2 weeks. There's, I don't know how to say this without you. Where
I second John's vagueness.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you for not saying get more specific because there might be other space available. And so if
That
there's
we
any
may
way
know about soonish.
that we may know about soonish, yeah. And so if there's any way we can go a little slower, or maybe even if we just commit to a year, if it has to be done immediately, that might make some sense.
Would this vague space that we'll know about vaguely in the future be vaguely cheaper than this?
Maybe.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Maybe just see if they'll let you do like a month or something, since we've been there a long time, for like 4 months or something, so you can figure out.
I think that's a great idea. Even if they drop us to the 441 or they keep us where we're at, it's not going to hurt us at the moment to just go slowly for a month or 2.
And I also got to believe that there's not people banging on the door to rush in and occupy those spaces. I may be wrong, but
Well, our lease expired in February.
right. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, the space next to us that where Purdue I can't remember what they were called. That's been empty for a minute, I think.
I know they just switched like leasing companies, so I'm sure that the new company's like trying to get stuff under control. Probably why they switched companies, since our lease expired in February.
Yeah.
But I think, like what Heather said, even if we just continue at the current rate, which is a little more than what they want, just to give us a few months to figure out whatever they're talking about, that surely would be fine.
I would like to give staff some options. So if we could direct him for a month to month, up to 4 months, and if that's a no, we could do a year.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking is that if we signed a year lease, we could get that $1,110 that we've paid over rent kind of worked into that. If we just do 1 month, I don't know if we can say, can you pay us back? If we broke, went somewhere else.
How many months would 1110 be? Like less than 3,
I mean, I think,
right? Like that.
yeah, less than 3.
It'd be like less than 3 if we were at a 1 year lease, right? If they just kept us at 440 or 440 or 480, it'd be like 2.5 months. We would end up paying if they. I mean, maybe they would do it that way with 4 month. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, probably the most straightforward thing is if we said we'll take a 1 year lease, so it's $441 per month, and then they would subtract, roughly $100 per month to prorate that in. You know what I'm saying? So we can recoup that $1,110. I mean, I'll talk to Carly. I mean, she's certainly accommodating and understands and wants to do things fairly. So I can talk to her.
All right. I mean, I think we probably should have a motion to direct staff on our leasing.
I wasn't sure if this was something we wanted to vote on or not. But I'm glad I brought it up because I was just thinking 5 year, but I'm glad we talked about
I
it.
make a motion to maybe do something eventually, depending on what happens.
Could we motion to direct staff for 4 month to 1 year option to try to capture back the 1110 and have a space while vague things get discovered?
I can make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure I have it captured correctly. So a motion to direct staff to move forward with a 4 month lease. Is
If
that
that's
To a
work
year.
up to 1 year. So if they won't do the 4 month, he'll be allowed to go to the 1 year.
okay?
That gives us our time to figure out what's going on and whatever.
Cool.
And we have a motion, a second from Rebecca and John in that order. Unless there's any other questions or concerns. Hearing none. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Rebecca?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Melanie?
Aye.
Unanimous. So go to go see if they'll do like a 4 month, like Rebecca said. If not, then just sign a 1 year, and then we'll figure out the vague possibilities of the future. With that, we have board appointments, and I think most of you saw Kyle's email, not being able to be here and also not continuing his term. Even though he's not here, I do want to thank Kyle in the meeting and publicly. The effort and time and help he has given us has been valuable, and he promised to continue to help us in the future, which is great. John and Jason, who have served on the board since the beginning of it, their terms are also up, and we have heard from their appointment authority, the mayor, that he does not plan to reappoint them. We are waiting to see what that's like. John has decided that he would like to have a discussion with the mayor. Him and I believe Jim were going to, but hopefully have met with the mayor before today. Am I wrong? And I don't believe that happened. The only name I believe that Nate had got from the mayor to be that he was looking to appoint was from Isaac Miller. Some of you may remember Isaac. He is not just an MRC commissioner, but he did serve on this board just about 2 or 3 years ago, I guess now. And he resigned his position on the board when he was appointed to the MRC due to any potential conflicts of interest. So that's where we're at with board appointments. At this point, it doesn't look like neither Jason or John are going to be reappointed. And regardless of how the future turns out, I'd like to really thank both of them for their contributions from the beginning. It's been invaluable. John won the Fisher Governance Award for his work here on this board. I think that our success that's been lining up, it rests upon their shoulders. So, I want to, even though Jason's not here as well, I would like to thank them both for their time and service. Working with them is always a pleasure. I look forward to continue to working with them in some capacity as we go forward. I don't really know what else to say. Sorry.
I would say, it's as always, it's my pleasure working on the land bank board. I really appreciate the collegiality on this board and our effectiveness. I would also say that I'm going to continue to advocate for myself as a prospective appointment from the mayor. I believe that the city of Muncie has done a lot of really good work with the Muncie Land Bank, and that we've always appreciated the mayor's support. I think that because of the closeness of ties between my professional work and my board service, it makes sense for me to continue. It's ultimately the mayor's decision. It's at the mayor's discretion. I respect whatever choice he makes, but I'm going to continue to advocate for my role on the board. So, and even if I'm not reappointed, I will continue to come to board meetings and continue the partnerships between the department and the land bank. Yeah, that's really all.
Really appreciate that, John. And just to remind everyone, these are public meetings. So, and we used to have a volunteer that showed up and worked on committees, Zane Bishop, before he was appointed to MRC. So, that's not an unfamiliar kind of relationship, I guess, to have, is what I'm saying. Jim, I think you were about to speak.
Yeah, I know, John, you sent that email. Did you follow it up with maybe leaving a message for the mayor to maybe call you back, or you to try to reach him through their administrative staff? I know he's hard to get a hold of.
I did not, but I will do that.
Yeah, I know he's, and the holidays coming up probably makes it even more problematic. The terms that you're referring to for all three individuals end at the end of this year, like December 31st, or is it somewhere in January?
December 31st.
Okay. It's not something, being a mayoral appointee, it's not something that has to go to city council. He can do those on his own. City
Yep.
council makes their announcements. Okay. All right. I got it. Yeah, I honestly would try to get a hold of him, John, if you can do that.
I will. Thank you, Jim, and thank you for your support.
Are there any other comments? We're pretty much at the privilege of the floor.
Yeah, I just obviously echo everybody's gratitude for John, Jason, and Kyle's service. I've talked about this with some of you, and also the interns of, for me, I've worked with different organizations throughout my life. And one of the, really rich things about the land bank is that there's just like so much commitment and interest and willingness to work from folks on this board. And that really makes it a fulfilling job, for me. I feel like I'm a part of something that's really important, that's innovative and needed in Muncie. And so I love that dynamic, because I've been in organizations where you don't feel that. You don't feel that like conviction. The time that you all put in beyond this board meeting, sometimes you almost feel like guilty, all the work that you all do, but that like really creates a environment for staff to to want to work and want to do a good job. And I think that that's something that the interns have experienced. And staff like Joe, just feeling like, man, people listen to me, and we're working together on this thing. That's a really, it's an intangible asset that's really, really important. Something that we have and we want to care for and cultivate. So yeah, I thank you all for your service, and just thank you for the way you go about it. It's unique. It's not a given in organizations.
All right. Before we call this thing to a close, I'd like to thank everyone for this year's work. We've made a tremendous amount of progress forward. I really want to thank the interns. I hope that they feel like they're getting as much out of this experience as we've gotten out of their effort and work. I do want to notice that the agenda says the next meeting will be January 17th, 2024. It'll actually be January 17th, 2025. I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move to adjourn. See you guys in a year.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? It looks unanimous. We are adjourned. Happy holidays. See you
Happy
next.
holidays.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.